Good morning, everyone, and welcome into the Sunday Belly Up Fantasy Live Dynasty Edition. And look, we're going to be tackling our last division this week with the NFC West. And this will actually be the last week of the Dynasty Edition version of this. Next week, you can catch us here. Still same time, same place here on Sunday morning. But we're going to be switching over to our redraft kind of regular season setup. So you can still catch us here, like I said, on Twitter, on YouTube, bellyup.tv, and we'll bring you all your in-season information, advice, and everything. But before we get too far into the day, Kevin, welcome to the Sunday morning show. How are you this morning?
We're doing great over here. We've got some lower temperatures happening in our area, and we had some rain. So, we're good. Life is good, and you're back in the driver's seat, and so I'm happy about that.
What's lower temperature for you? You still like in 90s?
In the 90s, yeah. But when we're talking 104, we'll take 90s.
100%.
Right. Cool. High of 84. Check that out.
Wow. It's like fall.
Yeah,
for
so
you.
We're bringing on the power right there. So,
by the way, driving down the highway yesterday here up in New England, there was one tree that was already fully changed in color, and I might have cursed it out as I drove past it.
You had every right to do that. So, yeah.
But as we can see, we got Chase as always down here as well. Chase, good morning.
Morning. How we doing?
Good. How are you doing on this beautiful Sunday?
Yeah, well, we've got some leaves starting to change here too, and I'm not thrilled about that. But
it's early.
The nice thing about it is it means it's
please
fall.
Keep that up north. We don't want any of that around here.
Yeah, and I like
fall
the fall,
though is football season, and that I'm okay with. But yeah, I'm not necessarily ready for cold, wet, blah for months. But no, I'm doing okay. My allergies have been crushing me lately. I don't know what's going on with that, but other than that, things are great around here. I'm psyched up to talk some football.
Fantastic. So we're gonna move into the NFC West then, because look, we've tackled every other division to this point from a dynasty standpoint. We've hit all the big news stories. So we got the Cardinals, we got the Rams, 49ers, and Seahawks up. So the Seahawks. So Kevin, why don't we let's give us an update. Where are you as a Seahawk fan right now? Because
he's a Panther fan.
When I was on the TSS Fantasy a couple of weeks back, and when we were talking about the Seahawks, and normally I'd be excited because the Seahawks have, they've been a quality team and everything. But this year, just like that Thursday night game, right? It's like water torture. Okay. So to say I'm not excited about this season, because I said, wait, what was that? Way back in April or May, whatever, they made that trade and they were bringing in Drew Lock. And I said, don't tell me that's the starting quarterback. And here we are, August, and he may not be even starting quarterback, but that's not because they went out and got somebody better, because they didn't. And he has not responded well in any phase, from what I understand, in the camp. And so Geno Smith is still he's your starter. And you could hit me in the back of the head with a baseball bat, and I would enjoy that more than hearing about Geno Smith as the starter for the Seattle Seahawks.
That sounds brutal.
Yeah, I feel like you're in a holding pattern up there in the Pacific Northwest in terms of that. I mean, we've got
the holding pattern's upside down, Chase, so that does not help.
What? True, but you've got a good quarterback draft coming up next year, supposedly. That's the big hype, is that it's a big quarterback draft next year. So without a ton of prospects, especially in the division that the Seahawks are in, they've got three tough teams in front of them that are legitimate playoff teams and contenders, including the defending Super Bowl champ. But with no realistic prospects this year to compete fully, you might just have to deal with a Philadelphia 76ers, process type season, because they may have a shot at a better quarterback next year if it doesn't look like Lock's the future. Smith he's the quintessential veteran bridge quarterback. You know what I mean? He's not going to make terrible decisions for him. He's not going to knock the lights out in terms of anything, but he can start. Maybe they can allow Lock to progress a little bit or learn behind him a little bit. And if nothing else pans out, then you've got a good quarterback draft next year that you should have a pretty decent pick in, top 10 or so.
See, that scares me, though, because
they might wind up having the number one pick overall.
But they would have to pick a NFL-ready quarterback because they don't even have a veteran right now that's worth a rookie coming in and sitting behind and learning for a year or half a season. Like they need someone to start day one at this point. With the way
they don't have one
now.
to learn behind. They don't have one to learn behind, but they've got one there that, I mean, we can make all the Jets jokes we want about Geno Smith, but he's played in the league a long time. And as a veteran, to be able to mentor somebody in the room, but no, you want to pick somebody who can play in front of Geno Smith in that role.
Well, and it just plays into as well that, moving forward from a dynasty standpoint, I'm not touching anybody in that receiving core, because look, everyone's big push for why DK Metcalf could be all right was because Drew Lock has an arm and can get it down the field, and Metcalf can just go get it with his size, his height. But if Drew Lock's not the quarterback, Geno Smith can't do that. That's not the type of quarterback he is. Like DK Metcalf, I really need to see who the next guy is before I'm buying into Metcalf or Locket in a dynasty format right now.
I think that Locket can pretty much play with just about any quarterback, because that's the kind of receiver he is. And so, as far as Lock is concerned, I could pretty much keep him right where he is. But yeah, you're right about Metcalf. If he doesn't have a quarterback to mesh with him, then in his dynasty, prospects fall completely off the table as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I've never been a big Tyler Lockett fan in terms of redraft format or having to have him as one of my top 2 options on a team. Yeah. He's one of those guys that, again, in real life, I would love to have a Tyler Lockett on my team because he's a very good receiver, but he's so streaky and hit or miss fantasy wise. He'll go from 34 points one week to 3 catches for 22 yards the next week and completely disappear. He's great in a best ball format because you don't have to try and decipher when his 3 great games a year are going to be. So I'm not downgrading Lockett at all necessarily because of their quarterback situation. I'm fading DK Metcalf a bit, but he's still young enough. He's still so dang good that in a dynasty format, I'm fine. I'm fine hanging on to him. And then from the standpoint of any of their other receivers, D. Eskridge and
we don't need to talk about it.
No, nobody else. There's Bo Melton. Well, there's not but anybody else there.
None of those guys, no.
Well, and the thing about Metcalf is, look, if you have him on your dynasty team and you're not in a position where you're really going to compete this year, then yeah, sure, I'll keep him then. Like, I'm not going to go out and buy him right now unless I can get him for
and receiver is a long-term position.
Because what worries me most about Metcalf this year is him getting frustrated with the condition of the offense and just kind of checking out. Because I feel like he's got that type of attitude to where he's going to voice his frustrations. He's going to create kind of this tension there in the locker room or with whoever the quarterback is game to game. I think he's going to have a frustrating year. So yeah, redraft standpoint, I'm not really interested in him at all this year.
We better not speak out too much after he just signed a
gigantic ass contract.
Yep, he sure did.
I actually heard some good news on that front.
And kisses all around.
I actually heard some good news on that front yesterday, though. I heard that Metcalf is maybe starting to stand up as a leader on that team in a leadership role, which would be awesome.
And it would be great.
As long as it doesn't go the direction
he's still a young guy. About. He's still young.
Yeah.
He is still young. He can turn it around.
And doesn't have Russell Wilson back there anymore. Somebody's got to be the leader there.
And they unfortunately in Seattle, they have dealt with offensive line issues for a while. They did put some resources into it this year, and I think that's smart.
Which is kind of interesting. They wait till Russell Wilson hits the bricks, and then
Russell
they bring
Wilson
in some
also,
offensive line help.
I love Russ, but he also will hold the ball for about 8.5 minutes waiting for a play to happen so he can make the play. So not all of those sacks might have been on those guys' fault, but I think that they invested something in their offensive line this year, which should help going forward. Mm-hmm. That's what I like about what the Jets have done, say over in New York, is that they've built their offensive line up around this young quarterback and gotten him some weapons. So they're trying to do the rebuild, in my opinion, the right way by making sure that whoever is at quarterback, whether it's one of these 2 guys or somebody that they draft next year, they're trying to build that offensive line in Seattle to protect that. Plus they need to be a run-based offense. That's been their identity. They've got a stable of 376 running backs that all have seen playing time, partially because they've all been hurt at one time or another. But
only 2, which we need to discuss here.
Yeah. So let's get to the running back, because that is where the value is, both in redraft this year and in dynasty format for this team. It's the the balance between Rashard Penny, Kenneth Walker. Then, yeah, look, he's still got DJ Dallas, who's a bit more of a specialty back. But he's very capable in the sense of if there's an injury, he can slide in. He's proven he can slide in and be useful. And then Travis Homer, Darwin Thompson after that, they're only going to really come into play if there is some sort of injury or whatnot. But Penny, where do you guys stand with Penny and Walker? Because I'm not super high on Penny. I prefer to take Walker a round or two later. I just think Penny – I'm just not interested in Penny with the other backs I can get around the same time for him.
The only issue with that, Andrew, is because the both of them, if you look at the rankings, are ranked right next to each other.
Yeah.
So you cannot wait a round or two for Walker to come back around. So you're going to have to make a decision. Yeah. Either you want one of them or you want neither of them.
True. It's a fair point.
And in Dynasty, I think that Walker has much more value because he's just a rookie. And if in redraft, I'm going to take Penny because, the last 5 weeks of the season, he was the best fantasy running back in football.
He was. And I think that – and I agree
all
with
of football.
And I agree with you that Walker is obviously the dynasty pick for sure because I think the way Penny is that this year they're hoping to get those last 5 weeks at the beginning of the season this year and then slowly turn the reins over to Walker, and he'll be the back next year as long as he stays healthy and he turns out well. So, yeah, Walker dynasty for sure. Then I guess for redraft for me, I guess I'm not taking either one of them. And I haven't.
Right. I have to agree with you.
I haven't had either one of them.
I would love for Penny to be able to have even 3/4 of the season that he had in those last 5 games, but the only reason why he had such great 5 games is he missed the 10 before that.
I was just going to say he may only have 3/4 of a season at best anyway, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But with the Walker injury or the Walker procedure that he underwent, I haven't seen any updates on what his time frame looks like and when he's going to be back. I was a little higher on Penny than maybe the industry average. I was a little lower on Walker based on the industry average, just because I think that they know what Penny can do and they've seen what he can do. And if and when he's healthy, he's a good back. And that's a running offense. And that's what they're, I think, because of the quarterback situation, they may have to rely a little bit more on that running offense. With Walker's injury, that kind of makes me back up a little bit. It may boost Penny, at least in the short term. It may boost Penny for me that way. I think that, and Penny's not old either. I mean, if you've got either one,
his third year, fourth year, something like that.
If you've got either of these guys on your dynasty roster, I'm holding that pattern because we know that they're on a team that likes to run the ball and has been built for it. I'm probably boosting Penny a little bit in the moment mostly because of the Walker injury, but also, like I said, because I think he knows the system and has been there and has shown that he can be a good back when he's healthy.
Because, it's interesting because Ken Walker, you talk about industry, is ranked 35th. And then Rashard Penny is one right behind him at 36.
Yeah, and see, in my initial rankings, I had Penny at 27. I had him ranked above that, and I had Walker down around 40. I had them spread out in the opposite direction a little way.
If that's the way it works out, and Walker is actually at 40, then that becomes much more of a value to me.
Oh, yeah. If you can get him that, and you might be able to now in a redraft format, you might be able to right now because of the injury. People might be reluctant to take him. I don't know how many people have still got rookie drafts coming up, but
it seems like everybody and their brother's done them already. But there might be somebody still holding out.
If you have a startup dynasty draft coming up or a rookie draft coming up, either way. Mm-hmm. Don't be too afraid of this Kenneth Walker injury. He was still probably the second best, prospect in the draft in terms of running backs that you were going to get this year. Now, Dameon Pierce looks great in Houston. Looks
that's
like
a committee, but we've already talked about
right. That. You've got Haskins, who looks like he might be able to, spell or take over for Henry at some point. But
Big Haskins.
But I'm not fading Kenneth Walker from a dynasty draft standpoint because of this injury here or because of the existence of Penny.
Yep. No, it doesn't change it for me either. And before we get into another interesting running back situation here in the NFC West with the San Francisco 49ers, well, I should say it's getting even more interesting with some more recent developments as the preseason's gone along. First, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to jump to one of our longest and most loyal ads, Manscaped, or I should say partners, not ads. Their ad for Manscaped. We'll be right back after this break.
Fellas, the fantasy football draft season is right around the corner. CeeDee Lamb is good, but have you seen these beautiful balls? It's time to get your snake looking right for this snake draft with sponsors of today's show, Manscaped. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming have created a championship lineup with the Performance Package 4.0. Join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all your goodies. Tom Brady didn't come out of retirement for you to have hairy balls. So slot it at the quarterback and get 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at manscaped.com. It's time to put the PP back in a PPR league.
These get me every time. You get me this.
Dan, he brings that in his original, unique way, and he should get there should be an award.
There was just multiple there. The snake and the snake draft, the PP and they're just fantastic, Dan. Gotta love it.
Yeah. But we need to look into that. Some kind of award. He should get it.
Yes, he should. So let's get into the San Francisco 49ers here because it's another interesting running back situation so I personally have been a little bit lower on Elijah Mitchell come into the season just because we know the 49ers like to surprise everyone with who they run the ball with. But with the recent news so far of Sermon just not really showing up so far this preseason, he's just not answering the call when he's given the chance. I'm raising Mitchell up in my rankings a bit because I still think Jeff Wilson is more of their kind of specialty. He can spell, change of pace. He can come in for an injury. I think that's more of his role. Trey Sermon was supposed to be the guy that would step in, in the past, and then he got hurt and whatnot. So Sermon was supposed to be the next guy there to kind of be 1A, 1B with Mitchell, and it's just not looking that way. I personally think Mitchell now should be rising up charts. Where are you guys on Elijah Mitchell going forward here? Because, look, in Dynasty format, we're still talking the San Francisco 49ers backfield here. We don't know what next year is going to look like. So are we putting a lot of stock in any of these guys going forward for multiple years?
We don't know what the next drive is going to look like.
Exactly.
For San Francisco running backs.
Exactly
Unfortunately, that's how they've run things always. And they don't show any signs of stopping with that. They've got, again, 476 quarterbacks running backs in that backfield that all look like they can play the game. Jeff Wilson can play the game, but I agree with you. I think he seems to be much more of a specialty, bring him in, bring him out kind of thing. I don't think that Jeff Wilson looks like an every down type of back. If anything, he looks like a third down back or a change up. Yes. Trey Sermon, I think. I like Elijah Mitchell. I love him. I had a ton of shares of him last year. I was lucky enough to be able to grab him. He was on my team that won my keeper league, and bailed me out basically for that. But I think Trey Sermon has to be looking over his shoulder because they drafted Tyrion Davis-Price for a reason.
He's been popular in these rookie drafts.
He's been popular in the rookie drafts because he's looked good.
He's been popular in best ball drafts too. I've seen him go a lot.
He looks like he can do anything that Sermon can do, and if he's going to stay healthy or be better at it or have a better attitude, it seems like, then why wouldn't he be the guy that comes in for Mitchell every so often on first and second down? Sure. I still like Mitchell. I don't have him ranked as highly because, like you said, they've got everybody in the backfield that can run. Plus, the other thing that worries me about any running back in this system right now is their quarterback, and not from the standpoint of him not throwing, but from the standpoint of Trey Lance is going to run every chance he gets, it seems like. He did last year in his little bit of playing time he had last year. He took almost a quarter of the runs.
Yep. And that's
quarter of their rushing attempts. That will eat into anybody. Even if Mitchell was a bell cow back and they treat him like that, you take a quarter of the reps and give them to your running back.
Yep.
And now a certain percentage is still going to go to the backup running backs, the second, the third, whatever. And and they're going to give some to Debo. They're going to give some occasionally to even Kittle and Ayuk sometimes.
I was going to say, don't forget about Kyle Juszczyk. They use him.
Right.
They use him.
I'm not big on any one San Francisco running back, but at the same time, you can do worse than to have yourself a share of a running team like this in the running positions. Yeah. I don't have Mitchell as a top 24 type right now. I don't either. Unfortunately,
I don't want him as a starter.
I got him at 28.
Yeah.
You got him higher than I do, even. Yeah, I think I had him at 36 in my initial rankings because I'm worried that Lance is going to run all the time.
That might be a little generous on my part because, as you're saying, this is a team that's great for their team. It's terrible for fantasy.
Oh no, it's wonderful for the team. They've got a great problem to have with a
Sermon. I was never big on him at all. So this news is kind of clears up things a little bit. And if you get a chance, if Mitchell is as you're saying goes into the 30s, something like that,
I'll take him then.
Yeah, then there's some value there.
And he and Davis Price are both young enough that in this kind of form, well, Sermon is too if he shows anything. But in a dynasty format, no, they're very much worth hanging on to and keeping. I think honestly, as unfortunate, and you can always play the second guessing game, but I think if Mostert didn't get hurt last year, I think that this entire situation looks a lot different. I don't necessarily know that we have heard Elijah Mitchell's name yet. If Mostert doesn't get hurt, Sermon may not necessarily be in as bad a situation as he is.
Yeah,
Sermon probably
would have been the next guy up this year.
Yeah, Davis Price may not have been drafted, but ifs and buts, candy and nuts kind of thing.
Right.
Well, and what worries me about all these running backs the most when you brought up Trey Lance is I agree 100%. Trey Lance is going to run the ball. I also think he's going to run the ball in the red zone. I think he's going to be the main touchdown, quote unquote, touchdown vulture to an Elijah Mitchell in this situation because I think he's going to get some. I think they're going to get creative in the red zone and probably give it to Ayuk or Debo up every now and then. They're going to probably get a rushing touchdown or two each. Yep. So all of these are just going to be, when we're talking about a running back in Elijah Mitchell, who's probably good for if he was the bell cow in this situation, was probably good for maybe 9 touchdowns on the season. You're talking about Trey Lance taking, say, 2.
Yeah, Trey Lance is going to Cam Newton all the touchdowns in the red zone.
You're talking about Elijah Mitchell now probably getting maybe around 4 or 5 touchdowns this year, and that's a massive difference when you're talking fantasy points.
Which is what he had a year ago. He had 5 touchdowns.
Exactly.
And so if he could match, he had 963 yards and 5 touchdowns. If he can match that, then he'd
be great, especially if you can get him as your third, or if you have him as your third. Yeah,
that's right. You need him as your third running back. Don't be thinking you're going to get him as a starter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't want to rely on him as a starter. Now, if October rolls around and he's grabbed that thing by the throat and they're playing well and Trey Lance is actually throwing, great. But if you can have him as your third to start,
happening either. Just look all the way across to the East Coast and Baltimore, and I think that you can pretty much, and their running backs. You don't want any of Baltimore running backs. 0.
Correct. Yeah, I'm staying away from all of them too.
And the 49ers are a better running team. They got better players than Baltimore does, but it's the same kind of situation where you've got to really look at that and say, I don't know, what's the value here? And if he's your third, talking about a Mitchell, I'm okay with that.
So what's your take on Lance then? On Trey Lance as a quarterback, right?
Trey Lance, how do you have a take on him? Because we really haven't seen it. And so Trey Lance, they've got him down as the number 14 quarterback in the entire NFL. I think that's high for a guy that you have not seen what he's going to do. And so I'm not taking him. He's not my starter in fantasy, in Dynasty, or anywhere else.
No, ADP, ADP, he's going around, like you said, 13, 14.
Yep.
I do not have him ranked quite that high. I have him at 18 right now. Yeah, I would like to see how he passes. I know he's going to run. The cool thing about him is that he looks like he's going to be that prototypical rushing quarterback that always has that safe floor because he runs. But how does he distribute and throw the ball? He still is playing quarterback in the NFL. He still has to toss that ball occasionally. And he's got some good receivers to do it with between Samuel and Ayuk and Kittle. And
he does.
He's got some pass-catching running backs. And his
rank in Dynasty is way higher than redraft.
And it should be. It should be.
It makes sense.
This is his first year. This will be his first year as a full starter. There will be some growing pains. Now, he may light it up and be great. That's awesome. But I would expect more of a year 2, year 3 starter jump. Like I would expect more of like a Lamar Jackson type trajectory from him.
Makes sense.
I wouldn't necessarily be counting on any of that this year. But if you have him or you can grab him in Dynasty, he looks like he could score you some points going forward. The rushing floor is always nice to have at quarterback, and he will definitely give people that.
So with Trey Lance, if we're comfortable with the rushing floor of Trey Lance, but we're unsure about the passing floor and abilities, where do we stand then on Debo and on Ayuk and Kittle? Because look, if the consensus is that they're going to use Debo less like they did last year because he doesn't want to be used that way. So if that's the plan, that they're going to maybe use him like that every now and then, but he's going to return to more of a natural receiver, then for me, Debo drops quite a bit in my rankings. Yeah, he drops off the table because I think we saw what Debo was as
when he 17th ranking goes right off the table. If they're not going to play him at the and give him the runs and the end arounds and all that sort of thing, then 17 is way too high for him.
See, I think they will though. I think they're still going to give him
that's
those
awesome.
carries.
Then put him right there at the top, maybe second round, maybe come right around that corner.
His usage rate is still going to be gigantic because he is probably their best all-around offensive weapon. Period.
He 100%.
There's no question. Kittle is still a top 10 tight end situation. I don't have him as a top 5, but I have him as a top 10 because when if like Trey Lance might do when he's scrambling around, you don't want to look downfield necessarily so much as you want to look for the first guy you can get it to, and who's going to be running more of those kinds of underneath routes. Is it going to be their streakers on the outside, or is it going to be somebody like Kittle? Kittle can run the seam, but Kittle can be used underneath because of the position he plays. Yeah, and he's good enough to overcome that. He's never been a giant touchdown scorer. Kittle hasn't been. So if he doesn't catch a ton of touchdowns this year, I'm fine with that as long as he still gets some balls, and I think he still will.
Right.
But as far as Samuel goes, I don't think they're going to back off of him as much as everybody thinks they are. It wasn't like he was there. I mean, Mitchell was still there last year. Mitchell got a lot of run last year, even with Debo getting some run. Now, some of those opportunities are probably going to go to Lance, but I don't think that they're going to not hand Debo the ball just because of all this offseason drama. They're going to use him however he can get them, however he can benefit them the most. And if he doesn't like it, well, then okay, don't play.
Well, they're giving him the money, so I don't care if he likes it or don't.
Exactly. I think they are still going to use him at a monster rate. And so I actually have him pretty high. I still have him as a top 10, top 5 capable running back.
Now, do you think that usage over Dynasty standpoint over the next couple of years, do you think that usage rate is sustainable for him? Do you think he can handle that over multiple years going forward to where if you're going to bank on him being your number one guy for the next 2-3 years, like, do you feel comfortable putting him in that role on your Dynasty team?
Here's my take on Debo Samuel Dynasty wise. Even if he only morphs into one role or the other, if he decides that, okay, I'm fine being a tailback, halfback all the time, or I'm fine being a receiver all the time, I think that he is talented enough to do either one and still be worth having on your roster. So I love him from a standpoint of having him on your roster, period. I would like him in real life. I like him on a Dynasty and my fantasy roster because he's a guy that can do anything and everything. And he will still have value going forward, even if he's only ever splitting out wide. If he's only splitting out wide, he's the best receiver on their team. If he's in their backfield, he might be the best running back on that team, even over the other guys. So wherever you put him, he's going to be a weapon. I still like him that way, even if this usage rate and this hybrid role that they've created doesn't sustain.
I don't disagree. 100%. I don't disagree in his athletic ability. I think he 100% is their best athlete on the offense in general, maybe the whole team. So I don't disagree with that.
Absolutely.
Because I think we saw finally Brandon Ayuk start to have some success as a receiver because Debo was kind of all over the field last year. He was almost like a 1B role as a receiver because Debo you couldn't really consider just a receiver. Do we see Ayuk continuing to have that success then, or is his success tied to the way they use Debo?
I think he's still talented enough to be a receiver in his own right as well.
Yep.
And we haven't brought up the fact that they drafted Danny Gray, and Danny Gray has looked pretty good so far in this preseason. If Danny Gray can be a legitimate receiver, especially, from a dynasty standpoint, I love him. I've got a couple shares of him. But if you can have two legitimate receivers outside of Debo, and then have Kittle inside of them, the sky's the limit for this offense if Trey Lance 100%. Proves he can throw the ball at all. I still like Ayuk too. I'm not probably as high on him as the rest of the industry is because of the Debo situation, because of the Trey Lance situation. But I don't think there's any reason he shouldn't continue to shine.
Yeah, I don't see why not either. And the industry has him as a number 52 wide receiver. If you can get him in that range, I think there's value right there. And so as you start to get later on in the draft and you're looking for players that are going to be on the field, Brandon Ayuk is going to be on the field. And so, and then you got Deebo Samuel on the other side, I would assume. And they're going to have to roll some defenders his way. So I like Brandon Ayuk in that offense. And so, which pains me to say greatly because,
you're right.
You know what I'm saying? Justin, I don't want to have to listen to Justin this year, first of all. So, second of all, because if you're a Seahawk guy, then you cannot be a 49er guy. Just can't do it.
No.
But as far as dynasty and fantasy and all that, I like Brandon Ayuk's value if you can get him as a number 52 wide receiver.
They're an exciting team right now. San Francisco is an exciting team from a dynasty standpoint because most of their weapons are young and will be around for a while. They have a great stable of young running backs. They have a great stable of young receivers. They have a young quarterback with a rushing floor. They could be really fun to watch in the next few years. So in a dynasty format, this is one of those teams that I am looking at hard, even if it's a stash and wait kind of thing. This is a team that in dynasty I'm liking shares of.
Yeah, especially if Trey Lance turns into Lamar Jackson. Then this offense is humming. No question about that.
Completely agree. So before we jump into our final two teams with the Rams and the Cardinals, because look, they both have some great storylines going on over there as well. We do want to hit one more ad break from a newer sponsor with us, the True Classic Tees. So we will be right back after this quick break from True Classic.
Support for today's episode comes from True Classic. This brand new sponsor has the absolute best fitting t-shirts a man can buy. Finding the right t-shirt with a little bit of a dad bod is incredibly frustrating. Most t-shirts are either too tight on your gut or look way too big and boxy. You're not in high school anymore, and it's time to upgrade. True Classic has already helped over 2 million men finally get a better fit at an affordable price. Our listeners get access to the best deal they offer. For a limited time only, get 20% off with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at TrueClassic.com. Almost all men's t-shirts are designed to look good on skinny models with six-packs, but most of us aren't packing anything but a few beers. Fellas, you are wearing the wrong clothes. True Classic tees taper off towards the bottom, but they fit tighter around the chest and shoulders. It's time to highlight your best attributes with a t-shirt you can always confidently throw on. True Classic doesn't just stop at tees. They are your one-stop shop for men's essentials. Super easy and simple to fill out your wardrobe. From polos and workout shirts with the same flattering fit to boxer briefs designed with a pouch to keep your bulge nice and comfortable. All their gear is top-notch quality at reasonable prices. It's about time you learn how to dress yourself properly. Upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic and get 25% off at trueclassic.com with the promo code BellyUpFantasy. Free shipping included on purchases over $100 and 100% risk-free guarantee with a 30-day return policy. Stay classy with True Classic. Your dad bod will thank you.
You know what, guys? I love these True Classic T-shirts, and I'm not out here shilling for the sponsor.
That's right.
But what I'm saying is, I played football
Walking,
right there.
Talking, live advertisement.
I'm wearing one right here. Listen,
Me too.
I played college football. I ran track in college. I'm the athlete, and I'm the quintessential dad bod. Used to be athletic, and now shaped like I'm shaped, right? But and these haven't helped anything. But I love the fact that they fit tighter around up here. They give you that look. None of us is built like. There are very few people.
No, I was a swimmer in high school. Guess what? I'm not joining any swim teams.
None of us are built like we were. None of us are built like the mannequins and the models that you see at the mall. But the True Classic T-shirt, the way that they fit across the chest and tighter on the arms. I hate when you put on a big T-shirt and the arms flare out because the sleeves are about that big around.
Mm-hmm.
I have been thrilled with the True Classic shirts that I've had. I have a polo shirt as well, just like Kevin's talking about there. And,
right here.
You cannot go wrong, fellas.
No.
You can't necessarily hide it, but
the biggest thing that I can say is because I put this shirt on, right, and I came out and I said to my wife, "What do you think?" And she said, "I love it." Oh. What more do you need to know?
That's all. Perfect. That's all you need.
That's it. Out. Straight out. Go over there as soon as we're done and get yourself some shirts.
And use the promo code.
Use the promo code. Don't forget that.
Save yourself some money. Why make it harder on yourself? But let's get into the Rams here. The Rams have become interesting because the unknown around the Stafford injury. It seems like he's going to be able to play through it. But look, Stafford's one of the toughest guys in the NFL. We've seen it. We've seen it in Detroit. He will play through injuries. And he can still, for the most part, be pretty effective. There's not a ton of information that's being put out by the Rams about the state and status of his injury and how it might affect him going forward. So the question is, how much of a hit does this give Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, Higbee, the other weapons in their offense? If we can't bank on Stafford, being fully healthy, are we knocking other guys down the list? Because I'm not going to knock them down a ton because I think Stafford's a good quarterback, but I think Kupp was still the reason Kupp was great last year. I think the guys are just athletes, and on this team they're high-powered athletes. I think they're still going to find success. And Sean McVay's a smart coach. Even if Stafford is hindered, I think he's going to find a way to play towards the strengths that Stafford can do while being hindered. So I don't lose a lot of faith in this offense. I think I did move Justin Jefferson ahead of Cooper Kupp, but they were pretty close in the first place. Where do you guys stand on guys like Kupp, Allen Robinson, in the sense of how Stafford's injury affects them?
Well, as far as this is another example of why we're not doing drafts, or you shouldn't do them, right? So we keep on nailing that, but people just don't seem to be getting that message. But Stafford, as you mentioned, he's a guy that's been there every year, but he is getting a little bit older. And if this injury, do we even know if we should call it an injury?
That's what
the secrecy that you're talking about right there. And so, I think he's going to be fine. And if he's going to be fine, then Cooper Kupp is going to be fine. Yep. And he's not good. He had the greatest wide receiver season ever. Mm-hmm. And so there's nowhere to go but down from that.
Sure.
But the season, let me see here, because I wrote this down, and he's had 1,000-yard season. And so if he does that 1,161 and 10, if he falls, I don't think he's going to fall that far. No. But even if he does, he's still a top wide receiver. And I really, really like Allen Robinson. There are a lot of guys that don't like him, which fascinates me greatly because before last season, he was a top 10 wide receiver, maybe top 5, playing for a Bears team that had no quarterback whatsoever. And so he's going to step up. He's going to get himself 1,000 yards because they're going to have to roll, like I said, double coverage over to Coop. Allen Robinson's going to be running around out there, and he's going to turn back, I think. And Allen Robinson is number 30 on the wide receiver ranks. I think I would take him and dance a jig if I got him at number 30 at wide receiver.
So here's what worries me, because I am a big Allen Robinson fan as well, but here's what worries me about that, because the reason I think Allen Robinson had as big of a season as he did in Chicago was it was very volume-based. There was a reason he was known as the target monster. You know, he was really the only option they were throwing to out there at the time. So for me, if you're a big believer that Allen Robinson can return to that form this year, then I don't see how you don't knock Kupp down a little bit more than slightly, basically, because I don't see how they can both be massive target monsters when you got Cam Akers, Daryl. Like, they have a good backfield too. They have an explosive backfield that they can use, a good offensive line. You know, can both Kupp and Robinson both be 1,000+ guys and the backfield still be useful in fantasy?
They've done that before when they had the Tennessee guy, right? Robert Woods.
Yep.
Woods,
When
yeah.
they had Woods,
Yep.
and they had Kupp. Both of those receivers were 1,000-yard receivers.
So do we still believe Allen Robinson can do that? That's what I'm.
Oh
that's
no,
kind of what I'm
I
getting at.
completely do it. Listen,
Okay.
Allen Robinson has been that guy.
Absolutely.
Allen Robinson has been that guy, whether it was Chicago or whether it was Jacksonville. In fact, he was a fantasy savior in Jacksonville a couple of times. You could pick him off the waiver wire halfway through the year because nobody knew who he was, and all of a sudden you've got a guy that's getting 150 targets and lighting up the scoreboard.
That's
Allen
right.
Robinson can still play football. It is not his fault what happened under Adam Gase in Chicago.
The 2 years before this last year, he had 151 targets, and the year before that, he had 154 targets.
And he had 150 targets 2-3 times in Jacksonville as well. And we have seen in this offense that the number 2, quote unquote, number 2 receiver has great value. Robert Woods, while he was there, was still a starting wide receiver.
Right, before he got hurt.
He was a top 24 type.
But you could get him a lot later.
If you'll remember, going into last year, we didn't know who was the top wide receiver on the Rams.
No, we thought it might have been
Was
Woods.
it Cooper or was it Woods?
Yep.
Right?
Okay.
But then they didn't miss a beat moving from Woods to Beckham. They didn't miss a beat. And even Van Jefferson had some value. Now, Van Jefferson's hurt a little bit right now.
Is at 65.
He's good for the future. I like him as going forward. But the number 2 receiver in this offense has a ton of value. I think Kupp is still a number 1 receiver. I still have him ranked number 1 overall. I think he's still going to get the targets. Now, it might be the Wolf throwing to him rather than Stafford if Stafford's situation with his arm turns up bad. But if you're a backup quarterback playing in that offense, who the hell are you going to look for first? You're going to look for Cooper Kupp. But Allen Robinson is a great, safe receiver. Know he's going to catch the ball. You know he's going to be where you need him.
Rookie or
No.
He's got good hands. There's a reason why he was able to score the points he did with 154 targets.
I'm probably a little lower on Robinson in terms of my rankings, but only because I'm still so high on Kupp.
Sure.
I mean, I'm fading Stafford a little bit, but I faded Stafford a little bit in my rankings even before we knew about the injury. I don't think that
number 11 is where I got Stafford.
With the interceptions that he sometimes throws because he's always trying to make a play because he is tough. And this injury concern a little bit, I'm fading him probably a little more than some people, but I don't think that you need to fade either of the 2 top receivers in Los Angeles. They're going to be good.
Nope, I agree. Are we on the same board that Cam Akers is the cut and dry starter here with Daryl Henderson floating in the backfield?
No.
I agree.
Are you on that board? Okay.
No.
So we are all on board because none of us
he could turn out to be that.
And I hope for his sake and everybody else's sake he does. I wish nothing
but
but the
he's
best.
got Henderson right there as well. So
Daryl Henderson is only 24 years old.
That's right. So Akers better be the guy, or he'll be on. One of those guys that was walking around dazed, trying to figure out what happened to him, and needing to thumb a ride home because Henderson will just take over.
I think McVay. I think they would love to have a guy in the backfield. Right now, honestly, they've got 2 guys. That's a great problem to have.
Yep.
I'm a little worried that this turns into Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, Patriots type backfield, or, the dreaded committee. Or I'm worried that neither one of them is healthy at the same time ever. And so you get some great production out of one guy for 2-3 weeks, and then you get nothing the rest of the year because the other guy took over because he came back healthy and your guy got hurt. But I like Daryl Henderson's skill set. I think he's a top to bottom solid back. And I think that people are unreasonably just giving this job to Akers. Akers did not look all that great coming back.
And they won the Super Bowl not because of Cam Akers.
No, they won the Super Bowl with Henderson in the backfield and yes, with Akers after coming back. But it wasn't like he didn't look like the second coming of Jim Brown.
No, he didn't even average 3 yards a carry.
No, not at all. And Daryl Henderson is a good running back, and he's still young. There's no reason why they shouldn't continue to use both of them. I think this. Just like everybody is quick to crown Javonte Williams, even though Melvin Gordon is still there.
Which I'm not doing that either. Okay.
For some reason, everybody just wants to jump on Cam Akers. And in a dynasty format, because we've got the time to allow that to happen, great. But also in a dynasty format, like we said, Daryl Henderson's only 24 years old. He's got a lot of mileage in front of him if he can stay healthy too. Neither one of these guys has proven to be a durable Cal Ripken every game guy.
Nope.
But they're good enough. They're both good enough. I don't see either one of them grabbing this thing by the horns and taking off with it. So I've got Henderson ranked a little higher, I think, than most of the rest of the industry because I'm just not swallowing the Cam Akers Kool-Aid.
Nope, I can't disagree with that either. No, so we seem to be on the same page there. So real fast, we will pivot to the last team of the division here with the Arizona Cardinals, which. The addition of Marquis Brown, I think, was a great add, especially with Hopkins, facing the suspension for some time this year. Zach Ertz, I think, is still going to be – he seems to be undervalued so far as a tight end this year, which surprises me. Maybe that's because of Trey Mcbride. I think that's understandable. But at the same time, I think if you're talking Zach Ertz, Trey McBride, Marquise Brown, for half the year, those are your 3 main targets right there. I think there's a real path here to where Trey McBride and Ertz are on the field at the same time. Plus, you get the backfield here with James Conner, who's getting a lot of love this year, which is disappointing to me because I was hoping to get him at better value in drafts and redraft. But
no, you're not getting him.
He's starting to rise up the list, and it's starting to have to pay a little too much for him. But anyways, with Kyler Murray at quarterback, I do think this offense is poised to be very valuable in a dynasty format because Murray's still young. McBride is poised to take right over for Ertz when he's done. So I love Trey McBride. I love Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown is still young too, and I think he's going to be explosive. I'm curious to see what he does with a quarterback who can throw the ball better than Lamar Jackson. So let's start there. Let's start with Marquise Brown. How are you guys feeling about Marquise Brown, especially with the situation where Hopkins is going to miss some time this year?
Well, even when Hopkins comes back, the two of them can coexist.
Exactly.
At wide receiver. And let's see, Marquise Brown checks in at wide receiver number 35. Now that's one of the lowest.
Low.
That's one of the lowest rankings of any number one wide receiver you'll find. Maybe it's the lowest. Yeah. And there is tremendous value in that. If you can score him at number 35, I think some people are going to wake up and that's going to rise. But even if it in the 20s, that's still
he's one of my favorite picks this year because I've been able to get
because I mean he had 91 catches, 1,008 yards last year, and 146 targets, and he didn't have Lamar Jackson all season.
And that was in a run, and that was with a run-first offense too.
And with Mark Andrews, the best tight end.
And Mark Andrews, best tight end on the planet. So I like him a lot.
Yes, I do too.
If he checked in the top 20, I would still like him. And so there's tremendous value here to be found in Marquis Brown.
Marquis Brown has a ton of talent. I like him that way. I love him as a player. The cool thing about Marquis Brown is that they can put him in the slot. They can put him outside. You can move him around a little bit. You don't have to look at him solely as a slot or solely as an X outside. Now, that being said, when Hopkins gets back, Hopkins is that guy on the left. He's going to be out to Kyler Murray's left, and that's where he's going to be. And he's going to get the looks because he's DeAndre flipping Hopkins. I think early in the year, though, I think AJ Green is more similar to Hopkins in terms of skill sets and in terms of what he can offer the offense.
Stylistic play,
Yeah. Now he's about our age, Kevin, but like, but he's still 8.5 feet tall.
You might want to assist him as he's coming into the stadium to make sure that he arrives at the bench.
Well, yeah, and we all saw his senior moment last year against the Packers when he forgot that the game was still going on in the end zone. Yep. But
hopefully something like that does not happen to me anytime.
Right. He still has that kind of size. I think early in the year during the D-Hop suspension, Green is going to have some value. I think Marquise Brown will hold his value all through the year.
Yes.
I'm not as sold on Rondale Moore as some people think that they are.
There's too many wide receivers there.
I think when Hopkins gets back, I think it bodes better.
When Hopkins gets back.
When Hopkins gets back, it's probably better for Moore because now Brown can. Now you'll take AJ Green off the field. Now you've got Hopkins, you've got Moore, and you've got.
Okay, I could see that.
Until then, I think that Moore is playing in the slot only occasionally. I don't know. I think
they've got Rondale Moore at number 38. That's insane to me.
Yeah,
I'm not.
He's going way too high. Way too high in my draft.
He hasn't shown us anything yet. He flashed a couple of plays last year, but he has not shown us the Marquise Brown ability that I know that we all know Marquise has. I think I agree with you, Andrew, that Zach Ertz this year has a ton of value.
Yeah,
he's no longer competing with Dallas Goedert, just like Dallas Goedert is no longer competing with him. He had a great run after they finally picked him up last year. I like Trey McBride.
He's now had a full camp with this offense.
Right. I love Trey McBride. I've got some shares of him going forward, but it is notoriously difficult for a tight end to come in year one in the NFL and have the same kind of ability that a running back can have. And even in recent years, we've seen wide receivers have. Tight ends take a while to adjust to the NFL game. I love Trey McBride going forward, and it's perfect because Zach Ertz is not a young man anymore. And you'll have that perfect transition where he can just cycle
one
right
season
in.
Away from needing help to the bench too.
So. Yeah, right.
But that's Chase is saying the timing of Trey McBride coming in here works out perfect for Trey McBride's future. So you get McBride at dynasty value, you're good going forward.
I love Zach Ertz for this season. I love McBride in a dynasty draft going forward because he is going.
He had 112 targets.
Yep.
You give me a tight end that has 112 targets, I'll take it every day.
He's not going to be
what? He's the tight end 17. Now that's insane.
That's criminal.
That's crazy to me.
He was the number one tight end prospect in this class. He was the number one tight end prospect in this class. Number two, some people had split, but Dulcich from Denver took a lot of that credit. The problem with Dulcich in Denver is that he's got Albert O there, who's only 23 years old as well. You've got two young guys in Denver who are going to be fighting for targets here going forward. McBride doesn't have that in his way. If you can grab McBride right now, you know that in the next year or two, you're going to have the guy at that position, and he's a player.
Then he'll get 112 targets.
And his quarterback is young. They can grow together. So I love Trey McBride in our format here. But I agree with you, Andrew, that Zach Ertz is probably undervalued going into this year.
Oh, you can get him at such great value in a redraft. I am curious. I'm going to look at as ADP right now because I know it's low because I've seen him in the mock drafts coming up way. So he's tight end 9 right now, 97th overall in redraft ADP consensus right now.
That's better than what I've seen because I had him saw him at number 17. That's way crazy.
These were updated today, I think. So yeah, it's probably been fluid. So that, but that's still as a tight end 9. You can draft him at tight end 9.
He's a starting tight end
at the top one.
That's right, and you can let the other guys pick tight ends in the third round or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I never have Kelsey or Andrews or Kittle on my team, because I just don't draft tight ends that high.
No. You can argue Andrews maybe, but no, I'm with you 100% on that.
Yeah.
No, Zach Ertz is a great value this year. I think people are going to be really happy with him on their team.
Yes.
But I really, like I said, I have several shares in Dynasty of Trey Mcbride. I think he's going to be good, and the timing just could not work out better for that.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Well, look, that's going to do it for us here on this Sunday morning show. But look, like I said, this is going to be the last week of the Dynasty edition. Next week, we are switching into our in-season format. And with that first show, we are going to be, well, I believe we're going to be doing a live draft here for redraft here on the show in the hour that we have with you guys. So look forward to that. If that changes, we'll let you know. But as far as I know, we are doing a live draft on the show next Sunday morning at 11 o'clock here on YouTube.
Definitely want to check that out. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be all belly up experts. It's going to be an insider draft for our little company here. So
nice. You can watch me school everybody else. That'll be all right.
Okay. I've been in with you.
Yeah, as long as you're not taking quarterbacks at the first two picks, then we're good to go.
Hey, we addressed that already.
We already did.
We already addressed that, and I nailed it last week too in the auction. So.
But yeah, so make sure you check out to the new in-season format starting on Sunday. Along with that, we are going to be continuing the Belly Up Fantasy Live show on Tuesday nights. We're also going to be adding a Wednesday show as well. So that's all part of the in-season format. So make sure you check out all the Belly Up Fantasy Live shows. You'll be able to see
check them all out.
You'll be able to see the three of us bouncing between all of them, as well as some other great people within that. You'll see Adam. You'll see Chris. There's going to be a bunch of regulars that you'll see and a bunch of fun guests that we got lined up for you.
I'm sure Justin will be in there at some point.
I'm sure he will. He'll be just talking about his 49ers. But
that's right.
But yeah, so make sure you check out all the Belly Up Fantasy Live content we have coming for you every week in this season, starting next week. And in the meantime, though, Kevin, hit us with what you got going on in the current present day right now.
All right. Well, today, of course, is Sunday. And so we'll be doing the fantasy baseball show tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Mike
and
Trout.
You definitely want to check that out because after this, there's 2 weeks left in the regular season of fantasy baseball. Yep. And we weren't on last week. We got some stuff to talk about. So you'll definitely want to check that out. And, of course, if you go to the Belly Up Fantasy website, you'll find articles from me there. And so on Twitter, Kevin62 WALSCA. And so I'm just out there.
Yeah, definitely make sure you check out Kevin's articles. He's one of the most read writers on our website. So definitely.
You guys haven't had a chance to even talk about Tatis or Trout yet on a.
Nope.
On a
so
podcast.
that'll be happening tonight.
Ooh,
so
yeah, that's a big show tonight.
Plus my Texas Rangers clearing house this week.
Right.
Big show tonight for sure. Chase, what do you got going on? Because I know you got some stuff you're gearing up for the NFL season here.
Yeah, I don't know if I can compete with the must-watch baseball programming that Kevin's going to be throwing out there tonight. But I will have updated rankings coming out on BellyUpFantasySports.com after this second round.
Absolutely, check that out for sure.
We've got a handful of games today. The Browns are playing today. A couple other teams. But I will have an updated set of rankings after that. Plus, I've got some more team previews coming up. The Vikings are coming up. The Ravens are coming up. So check me out there at BellyUpFantasySports.com and all of the rest of the great content we have. You can always find me at STTChaseFFB on the Twitter machine. And, I do engage. So if you want to talk, I'm here.
As I do as well. So shoot me an email, a text. I'll be more than happy to talk.
I will be hosting, going forward then, Andrew, I will be hosting the weekly preview show for Belly Up Fantasy Live going forward. So, tune in.
That'll be the Wednesday show, correct?
Yep.
That's the Wednesday.
Or either the Wednesday or the Thursday. I can't.
Okay.
Or the Wednesday or Tuesday. We'll take a look at it. But either way,
we'll get it straight. No question.
Into all of them. We're gonna be doing a weekly follow-up. We'll be doing a weekly preview. We'll be doing a Thursday night preview.
You definitely want
to three of us on all the shows at any time.
Yeah, wherever Chase is, you definitely want to be there.
Yes, and as always, you can find me at Real Mr. Matt. I will be releasing my first round of rankings for this season. I'll be updating them weekly for in-season rankings as well. So check that out on BellyUpFantasy.com. Hoping you'll be able to find us on FantasyPros.com as well. We shall see. And that's going to do it, though. So thank you for joining us. As always, we'll see you next week as we start the NFL season.
That's right. Everybody have a great week.
Slanja.